CJ Peterson, and welcome to The Journey is Real. We talk to real people with real passions who share a real portion of their hearts. Today, my guest is Chloe Traicos, and we're going to be talking, and it's a special podcast, and we titled it Introducing Chloe for a very good reason. And we'll get to that reason in just a little bit. So welcome, Chloe.
Thank you, CJ.
Before we do get to that reason why we titled it that way, you have a couple different passions. One is acting, and one specifically is the Save Zimbabwe movement. Can you explain, we'll start with the Save Zimbabwe movement. Can you explain what that is, what that's about, and how people can find out more about it?
Sure. I mean, it's the Save Zimbabwe movement is basically raising awareness about what's happening in Zimbabwe. I mean, Zimbabwe has been in a very bad way for a long time. And, the population, it's very overpopulated. The majority of people are unemployed and starving. And it's just trying to raise awareness for what is going on there and pretty much pointing out ways there are. Thankfully, in the last 10 years or so, there has been this fantastic website which allows you to send money to people in Zimbabwe that goes right where they can pick it up right away in cash. And pretty much this Save Zimbabwe movement is not only just educating people about what's happening there, but is also about how you can help people there.
Now, where does the money go that's being sent?
It goes directly to the person, to their bank account, to their, to their bank account, to place where they can pick it up in cash. I don't know how that works.
Like, do they purchase books? Do they purchase medical supplies?
Food. Mostly these people just want to survive. It's just mostly food, medicine. And I mean, I also send medication to people there who need it, because sometimes they cannot get a lot of stuff there. They have to get stuff from here. So yes, it's pretty much, but basically survival is where it goes.
Got it. Now, you're from there, correct?
I'm from Zimbabwe, yes.
Okay. And what was it like growing up there?
It was amazing. It was very, it's a very cosmopolitan place. You kind of, it's very, I grew up in the Zimbabwe era that I was after the Rhodesian period. We went to school with, there was with kids of all races, and it was very much, it was great because everyone identified as Zimbabwean. There was a unity with us all, and we still do. And all my friends are separated across the globe because most got out when they could, when things got really ugly, and we still stay in touch, and we still see ourselves as Zimbabwean first and foremost. And it was a very I won't say laid back lifestyle, because there were always there in many ways it was stressful, because you kind of, things happened a lot, like power cuts, terrible, huge amount of car accidents because the road rules are really terrible. But there was just basically an animosity amongst, animosity amongst the people. Well, there was basically a feeling of, there was no real feelings of animosity. There was like, everyone was sort of friendly. It was a very sort of happy, a carefree place to grow up.
So as you're growing up, you kind of got bitten by the acting bug.
Yes.
So how did that happen, and how did that progress? And I know that that's somewhat what triggered the Save Zimbabwe joining that movement. So kind of take us back in that and bring us forward to that.
Sure. I can't say there was anything that caused me to be bitten, because just what I say to people is, I knew I wanted to be an actor from since I was old enough to work out that people in movies were acting. So probably from about 5 or 6. So there was nothing, and there was no real acting scene in Zimbabwe. We had one little theater in the town we were in. And my mom always used to take us there. And I was part of the theater teen group there, but so it was, as far as following my passion there, it was actually very limited. There isn't much of the scene there. That all happened, action on that all happened later, but it definitely.
How did you, if it was so small and there wasn't a whole lot, how did you get into acting then?
Basically, when we immigrated to Australia, that was kind of when I started my own theater company, and started it, basically took it from there. So yeah, it was just something I knew I always wanted to do, even though there was very little to do there.
I love the fact that you
Yeah.
It wasn't there, so you made it there.
Right, right,
Make
right.
it
So that
happen.
was pretty much it. Yeah, that was pretty much it. But yeah, so there wasn't much there. And so yeah, so when I immigrated, by the time my family immigrated to Australia, I knew that was what I wanted to do, and I formed my own theater company. And you know, basically, you know, I was still a teenager. And we were putting on plays, and then from there, I then went on to make my own movie. So yeah.
Very cool. So was it the first movie you made that was the documentary?
Yes, that was the first one I made. And that wasn't, I mean, that was just because at the time I was so, we just immigrated to Australia and there was so much misinformation people didn't know about Zimbabwe. Like people seem to think that the white farm and land invasions those were evil white people who were being kicked off their land justifiably, and that all the blacks wanted all the whites out. And it was such nonsense because at that time I grew up with the white population as a minority, and blacks and whites got on really well. The white farm invasions were a direct result of Robert Mugabe, the dictator at the time, trying to do the old divide and rule tactic, which was, you know, the people were starving, the people needed land, and he was like, hey, the whites are stealing your land, you know, and he paid people to go onto the farms and kick them off. So a lot of people in Australia had no idea what was going on. And I remember getting quite infuriated at the things I was hearing. And so I put together this documentary where I interviewed both Black people and white people who had to escape Zimbabwe and had pretty much suffered at, you know, they all had the most horrific stories of things they'd gone through. And so, yeah, that was basically why I made that documentary. Mhm.
Awesome. Now, when was that put up?
That was in 2005. That was, yeah.
Okay. And then you went from there. How did you continue to climb then?
So then, yeah, and then I made my first feature movie shortly after, which was one I wrote and starred in. And
So you were
that
writing
was,
as well then.
yes, I do write. Yep. So yeah, so that was my next project, which that was, you know, that one didn't have anything to do with Zimbabwe. That one was just purely entertainment. But yeah, you know, that one we made, you know, on a very small budget in Australia. And we, you know, and then you know, did very well in the festivals, and then yeah, and then just carried on making films from there.
Awesome. Like I said, I love the fact that you didn't know what to do, so you just took it over and ran with it. I
Oh,
think
thank you, thank you. Yeah, no, it's just a king. You think of, you know, you kind of, you know, in the film industry, you know, I mean, you know, you're a writer. I mean, it's very similar. You kind of have to make things happen, otherwise
otherwise
it's
it doesn't.
not.
Yeah,
Otherwise it doesn't. You can, if you're an actor and you're going to sit and wait for your agent to call every day, well, you know, nothing's ever going to happen for you because all you'll do is annoy them. And, you know, you kind of have to do it. And I mean, one of the reasons I started writing my own stuff film wise was because in Australia, especially, there are very, very, very few roles for women. And the industry there is very tiny. So I thought, well, you know what? So I'll write a movie with great, you know, strong female characters. And yeah.
yeah. Well, and it's like I'm an author. So I've been an author since 2012. I think is when I published the first one. I have 13 books out, working
Wow.
sci-fi trilogy, Christian sci-fi trilogy. And
Amazing.
so I'm also a blogger. My husband and I have 5 acres that we're taking from ground zero to a fully functioning, self-sustaining farm. And I share like our joys, successes, our mistakes, and our failures, and just kind of do life lessons from it. And then I'm a podcaster as
Yes.
well
Yes.
and a publisher. And it's like when I do things, it's like I just jump in both feet, mistakes and all.
And you have to. It's
Yeah,
like otherwise, you know, you absolutely have to. It's like that. It's the way you
mhm,
kind of have to do it.
yeah,
And it's, you know, it's just you can't wait for other people to do it for you.
exactly. You can't wait to be discovered
Oh
or
yeah, it's just
have that agent that's going to run stuff for you. And it's like, no, just do it.
right. It's like, or even worse, you know, I mean, I know people who just are bitter and twisted because their attitude is, oh, well, no one ever helped me. And it's kind of like, well, no one's going to help you. You have to
Mhm,
help yourself.
exactly. You guys got to do it. You got to figure it out and you're going to make mistakes. And some people are kind of one of those where it's like they're perfectionists. And so they're like, well, I don't want to make a mistake. Well, then, honey, don't even bother.
Exactly, exactly. I know the one thing I can't stand is when, and I had this said to me so many times, like when I was just starting out in the film industry, when I wanted to pitch a script, I got told by so many people, you've only got one chance at this. If you mess it up, it's got to be perfect. And I was like, no, I don't have one chance at it. If I mess it up, I'll go to someone else. I'll try again. I can't handle that way of thinking of there's only one chance. And, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
you just have to go.
it's like my books. The traditional Christian fiction publishers want this pretty little box with a beautiful bow and, life is great after they get saved. And I'm just like going, yeah, that doesn't happen in real life. I'm a realistic Christian. And so I knew my books wouldn't fit traditional.
Right, which is good. That's incredible.
Well, mine have some paranormal in them. It has spiritual
nice.
warfare in it. And then, like I said, this new one is a Christian sci-fi trilogy. So I'm kind of just making up my own genre. I'm a sci-fi geek. I am. That's how I do it. And so it's like I knew I wouldn't fit there, and I didn't quite fit the secular because there was, a lot of Christianity in it. So I'm like going, okay, I don't fit in either one. I need to make my own category. And so I became an independent author. And then my sister figured out the whole back end stuff because that drove me crazy. And so we started our own publishing company in 2019. And it's just like,
that's wonderful. And as soon as we hang up, I want to get a link for some of your books. It's
awesome.
Yeah, I would love to have a look. Yep. I mean, my husband's a sci-fi fanatic, so
well, the sci-fi ones are coming out in the fall. So for those listening, fall 2021. It has to do with genetic manipulation.
Oh wow, that is intriguing.
The ones that are currently out, the characters actually cross over storylines. I have a standalone, I have a set of 5, I have a set of 3, and I have a set of 4. The standalone, set of 5, and set of 3 are going out at the same time.
Wow.
The set of 4 is a 20-year jump, and the kids are taking over the Divine Legacy. And so all the characters cross over storylines, so the part of a different character in a different series.
That's great. I love it.
So cool. Anyway, but let's talk about you.
Okay.
Focusing on you. You have a movie coming out tomorrow.
Yes.
Can you tell us what it is, what it's about? I saw the trailer for it and I showed my husband and I said, I got to get her because this is hysterical.
Oh, thank you. So it's basically, it's about a unemployed, very untalented actress whose fortunes change when a world famous movie director drives into the back of her car. So she, and of course, fate happens because she has one of these weird names, Jodea, which nobody ever gets right. And this works in her favor when he writes her a check for the damage to the car and he spells her name wrong. So she races into the building after him and it says, look, you know what? I don't care about the damage to my car. Just put me in your movie. And she auditions and she's so terrible that as she walks out, she pretty much, his agent who's in the room tells her to get out. And then she's so terrible that his agent actually turns to him and says, look, I'll get you the leading man you want if you could ever get a performance out of her. But he says it as a joke. But the director says, you're on. He says, I'll try get a performance out of her if you can get me Ethan Burns, who's like the hottest new thing. So then it's like, it's kind of a Pygmalion type love story. He's teaching her to act. They fall in love. It's, it's a sort of a return to the classic romantic comedy, I would like to say. Yep.
Well, like I said, I saw the trailer for it and I was cracking up. I'm like, this is going to be good. Just like, talk about being discovered. It's like, you know what? Don't fix my car. Just put me in a movie.
Right. And you know what? That's how I think most actors who want to be discovered will think. It's like they will do anything to be in a movie. It's just like, so so that's kind of so it's like it's sort of, so yeah, it's got a lot of funny parts and it's just, but at the same time there is a serious message in it. But yeah, that's pretty much the storyline in a nutshell.
Serious message in it.
Well, it shows how also the whole thing is he's teaching her, but you also see, of course, I have to put in the feminist point, which is, she actually ends up teaching him more because he's someone who's he's a passionate man too, and he has his films that he writes that he's passionate about, but because those projects of his have failed in the past, he's stuck to the mainstream commercial action movies that he doesn't really care about, but that make him money. And so she ends up, during the course of the story, he ends up listening to her and starts making projects which are ones that he's truly passionate about. So they kind of each learn from each other.
Right. And if he's truly passionate about it, that's going to come through in his work.
Right. Yep.
No, I think that's great. Now, did you write this or
I did write this, yes.
Awesome. then yeah, then congratulations, because like I said, I think it's hysterical. For
Well,
the
thank
part
you. I hope. Thank you.
it looks really cute. So
Thank you.
congratulations. So the links for it will be traveling with this podcast. So I'm going to get that afterwards, but I'm really excited for you. So what's next on your list? First, before we forget, the reason we titled the podcast Introducing Chloe is kind of a play on words of I'm introducing you to Chloe, who's introducing you to Jodea.
Right.
So anyway, so what's next on your list?
There are several things. I mean, like, I'm not just limited to comedy. I have a courtroom drama, I have an action movie, I have several things I've written, and it's just a case of getting them all out there and just seeing which one appeals to people most. It's like, so it's hard to say which one is going to come next, but it's just a case of getting them out there.
So your passion is actually kind of trifold then. It's the Save Zimbabwe Movement, it's writing, because you're writing these movies and you're trying to get the messages out that are in them, but it's also the acting on top of it all. That's kind of like the cherry on the top of the cake.
Right, of course. And I mean, I don't want to say too much about it because being a paranoid writer, I'm worried about people hearing and stealing.
I'm with you.
But
people are always just like, well, are you going to give me an advanced reader copy? Always, also known as ARCs. And I'm just like, absolutely not until it's published.
Right, exactly. It's like, you can't risk it. It's like, no. So my courtroom drama is actually about a case of it's about a Zimbabwean guy, who, and it's just a case of, because I mean, one thing that I noticed so much is there's so much that's culturally different between Zimbabwe and the US.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a guy who ends up being arrested for an incredibly innocent mistake. It wasn't even a mistake. It was something which in Zimbabwe is normal, but which in America is taboo. So I won't go into too much. I'll just leave it at that. But it's like, and it's been inspired by two true events where things like that did happen that I'd heard about and was very passionate about. But yeah, so it's kind of it's a look at it's very much a you do sort of like learn about how, I mean, it does sort of tell the story about how, a lot about Zimbabwean culture and how it's different, but it's, and just how, how a lot of people from Zimbabwe might struggle. I mean, fitting into America. I mean, to a lot of people, I mean, came here via Australia, but to a lot of people, America is like another planet. I mean, it's not just you're driving on the other side of the road.
Well, and then my husband's from South Africa. We talked about this before the thing. His family came here. The first thing we did, because I saw the other side and how, they lived and how they grew up and how they were functioning. We took them to Walmart and stood them in front of the Oreo cookie section.
Oh my God.
Their minds were blown.
Yeah. It's like, well, I still, I have to say, I hate going into supermarkets. I mean, I hate it in Australia and I hate it here because in Zimbabwe, when you went into the supermarket, I'm going to buy bread. It was a case of, well, what bread do they have today? Do they have whole wheat or do they have white? Or do they just have bread rolls? Because whatever they have, you're going to take. And here you get there and you're looking at the aisle and it's like,
there's a whole lot.
It's like, so I hate going to the supermarket because I get totally overwhelmed. And so I'm still very much and so yeah, and that's, it's one thing which I do bring across in this coming screenplay. But yeah, so it's like, so for a lot of people it is, the differences. I mean, just even like the driving, the even the light switches turn on and off differently. The words for everything.
In South Africa, the heater's on this wall and it's
Yes, it's like,
so it's like when we were there toward the end of October.
Oh yeah.
And so we had like the hot water bottles under the covers trying to keep us warm. And I'm from Texas, so we're just like, we don't do cold.
Yeah, right.
So it was like, what is this cold stuff? We had to take hot showers before we went in bed and jumped in the bed with the hot water.
Oh yeah, and that's one thing I find so funny is when I tell people here, people here will say to me, "Oh, you mean it gets cold in Zimbabwe?" I'm like, "Yeah, it gets way colder than LA."
Yeah, people they don't connect it.
Yeah, it's so people just think of Africa as a desert. They don't get that it's
or the huts with an elephant in your backyard or giraffe.
Oh yeah. I know it's hilarious.
I do have to say that when I went there, the best part of the whole thing was Kruger Park. And we went on safari for like 4 or 5 days. We just kind of went camp to camp to camp.
I'm dying. I haven't been to Kruger, but I love national parks, and it's
Well, we were there and we were watching for a hippo.
oh
We were
wow.
sitting in this one area and we had pulled off to the side and we were looking for a hippo. And I'm looking like this way, and my husband's in the driver's side, which is to, my right. And so he's looking elsewhere. And he's just like, hey. And I said, what? He goes, look out your window. I looked at my window. Less than 3 feet from my window was this giraffe sticking his tongue out at me. I was just like,
Oh.
oh,
Yeah, the
okay.
giraffe tongues are like, I fed a
But the
giraffe. Their
was
tongues
like
are weird.
3 feet from the car. And I was just, oh, mind blown. And
Yeah,
it's like, I love monkeys. I got to see tons of monkeys. We saw the big five. When he went there like several years beforehand, he and his brothers got in trouble with his elephant.
uh-oh, why would you?
Well, I guess he had an abscessed tooth and he'd actually attacked a car earlier that day, but they weren't able to catch him.
Oh my
And
God.
so he was blocking the road. And so he and his brothers and his dad kind of pull up and they have to back up, and this elephant is charging them. So the joke before we went to Cargo Park was, don't tick off an elephant.
Yeah.
So we're in there driving around, and what does he do? He finds this bull elephant that's like 20, 25 feet from the car. And he does this high pitched shrill whistle, and the elephant ears go out and they come back, and he does it again, and the elephant stomps his foot. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, get out. And it was just insane.
That's like, well, I mean, well, elephants are scary. Like, I had to laugh because we went to
But they're
Wangi.
feet too, so it's like,
They are, but they're like, but when we went to Wangi National Park when I was a kid, which is I don't know what it's like now. I hear horrible stories about so many of the animals have been eaten because people are starving. But that I remember going there when I was a kid, and my mom was raised on a farm, and she loved to talk to show off about this because my sister and I were raised in the suburbs. And so I remember our first day there, and we like walking, and they're like these elephants not too far from us drinking. And my mom was like, oh, you kids, you missed out on this. This is what I grew up with in the bush. And she walks towards the elephant. And at that moment, the one elephant turned and made that noise. And my mom went, ah! And turned and ran. And we were just teasing her so much. We were like, yeah, Mom, you're such a farm girl. It wasn't even doing it. I think it was just like, I don't know, talking in elephant lingo to its friends, but we were just hysterical because my mom she clearly hadn't been in the bush for a while. So it was just very funny.
well, and it's so interesting. Like, we saw lionesses.
Oh yeah, they're
And before we got on here, I told you about the story. We were in this one tent area, and I called them the Harry Potter tents because they just kept going and going and going. And the dry riverbed was like we were 10 feet from the fence, and the dry riverbed was just down below. And at midnight, my husband wakes me up and said, listen. And there were all sorts of animal noises. And all of a sudden, this lion just roared at the top of his lungs. And it was like dead silence.
It's
and
scary.
I had like goosebumps, like, oh crap, because he sounded like he was right outside the tent. And then all of a sudden you heard like the baboons, and then you heard the hyena joined in, and then all sorts of other ones started like, oh, okay, it's all right, we can talk now. And it was just
it's terrifying. Yeah.
Seeing nature in its raw form.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's something you never forget.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. No, it is. It's incredible. I love it.
Yeah, his cousins come here, and like I said, they immigrated from South Africa, and the cousin's daughter goes to a school here in Texas. And at first, when she first started going, everyone was giving her grief, thinking she lived in this hut and had different animals in her backyard. She's like, nope, I live in the city.
Yeah, it's like, it's so it's hilarious. And I also, it's so, I know it's very and then the other thing which always amuses me, knowing, and I don't know if your husband had this one as well, but when I first came over here and I told people I was from Zimbabwe, well, where's that? It's a country in Africa. Oh, I know someone from Kenya. Do you know them? And you're kind of like, well, it's kind of a big continent.
Yeah, it's pretty big. It's at least in your area.
So it just, I don't know. I'm sure your husband.
Do you know somebody from Kenya? Do you know this person from here? Do you know that person?
Yes.
I know my neighbors that were across the street.
Yeah, it's so funny. It just, it used to crack me up, that one. Yep.
It's like, how am I supposed to know everybody?
Yeah.
So
I know, it's hilarious, but yeah. Oh wow.
So now you're in California.
Yes, that's correct.
You're
Yep.
doing movies, you're connecting with people, and you're making connections and getting your movies produced and stuff. And I just want to congratulate you because I think that's huge. You
Thank
went
you so
after
much.
your dream and you made it happen. And I
Oh,
applaud you for that.
thank you so much. No, I appreciate that, CJ. I really do. And yep. And I mean, it's you're doing the same thing, which is amazing. Thank you.
Well, women, we do what we do.
Exactly.
It's the
Exactly.
creativity, male or female. If you want it bad enough, you got to do it. And you
So
got to.
true. It's so true. It's like, I mean, when people say to me, what advice would you give to someone just starting out? I would say you have to want this. I mean, and you have to want this more than anything. And it's just
And
like,
don't quit.
yeah, and don't quit. And it's not just a case of just wanting, it's a case of having to do it. Like for me, there never was a plan B. My dad has given up on trying to get me to be a lawyer. He wanted me to do that because he always used to, we'd get into these arguments and my dad would be like, listen to you, you're so good at arguing, you should be a lawyer. That's and I was never ever gonna do that. It was just like this was it for me.
Well, and you're using that skill in a different way. You're using it to get your movies out, which gets your messages out better in the movies.
That's exactly what I explained to my dad. Yep. And no, thank you. Yeah, that is true. Yep.
Definitely. Well, I could talk to you all day, but I know you have an interview coming
Same
up.
here. Same here. And
We have a few minutes left. Is there anything you would like to add?
no, I just hope that everyone enjoys the movie. And I mean, and I think it's, I mean, one of the things which I personally like about the movie, and which people who've seen the movie in the festivals and stuff have told me, is that they say it's something nice and light, which we all need after COVID. It's like it's a feel good movie. It totally, you've got to just watch it, relax, and just laugh. But then again, as I said, there is also the serious message. There is a message there and stuff, but it's also like it's mostly just for entertainment and so people can just
When it
relax.
comes out, where's it going to come out?
At Laemmie Theaters have a nationwide release, and then we're currently negotiating with various platforms like Amazon for the online release because everything's online now after it's had its theatrical. So yes, but yeah, so Laemmie opens June 4th in the theaters. Across
Awesome.
the states.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, congratulations. Best
Thank you again.
wishes. I don't say best of luck because I don't believe in luck. So best wishes.
I much prefer best wishes to best to luck. So yeah, appreciate that.
And Chloe Traicos, thank you for coming on. Keep
Thank
your
you
eye
so
out
much.
for her in movies and watch her climb up that ladder because she seems to have the determination and ambition to do so. And I'll be excited to say, hey, I interviewed her.
Well, I hope we will stay in touch.
Definitely.
Great.
Also, we will have the link in for the movie with this. Like I said, best wishes tomorrow on your launch. I'm super excited for you. And that's
Thank you so
Chloe
much.
Traicos. It's spelled Traicos.
Mhm.
You can find out about the Save Zimbabwe Movement, and you can find out her movie that's coming out. It's called Introducing Jodea.
Jodea.
And that is spelled Jodea.
That's correct.
Awesome. Chloe, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Have a great one.
And thank you guys for listening to The Journey is Real. We talk to real people with real passions who share a real portion of their hearts. I'm CJ Peterson of cjpetersonwrites.com. Until next time.